Calster, if you're chosen to be an RA next year, you'll have the choice of any room in Chilton Hall. We RAs always get the best rooms. Because we rock!
Here's part 22 of my DVD collection. Let's just get to it. First up, I got this fairly recently. This is Jay and Silent Bob's reboot. This is the Kevin Smith's most recent movie. And I actually kind of liked this. It's not as good as Strike Back, but it's memorable. You even get to find out who Jay's daughter is. Yes, Jay has a kid in this movie. It's a good adventure film, and I recommend it. And there's the disc. They both look very different in that movie. So, I got this recently. This is Ghost in the Shell Second Gig, Volume 7. So now I have all the volumes of the first and second seasons, which is pretty cool. My video store had this in their kids section, which is really weird, because it was broadcast on Adult Swim, but that's cool. Here's the disc. It's good to have that finally. I'll move this a little bit. Death Proof, Quentin Tarantino. This is my uncle's copy. I have another copy that has both the discs. But this movie is probably the most underrated thing that Quentin Tarantino has ever made, because it was part of the Grindhouse double feature. This is the first movie, and then there was Planet Terror, which was Robert Rodriguez. This movie's pretty good. I like what's his name? Kurt Russell in it. I recommend it. It's not the best thing Tarantino made, but I still really enjoy it a lot. It's very underrated. Move this a little bit. Alright, here's a very, very, very underrated movie I highly recommend. This is called Max Reload and the Nether Blasters. It's very, very independent. Like, it was made in Arizona about these, like, computer hackers, and it's like Max Reload's like the superhero who runs a game store, and he has to try to fight them. It's very good. Kevin Smith's in it as well. It came out like a year ago, but it was made in like 2018 or something. But it's very, very good, and I'm surprised not a lot of people even remember it. I mean, it's been a year already, and it's like no one's really talking about it. I highly recommend Max Reload. Very good. For an independent movie? Definitely. Here we got Curse of Chucky. One of the other only Chucky movies I own in the collection. Haven't seen it yet, but I intend to. I know it came out in 2013. Wow. Almost 10 years already. Wow. I know there's the TV show on that I still need to watch. Welcome to the Dollhouse. I've heard a lot of things about this movie. It's got Heather Matarazzo in it, and I really like her. So, it might be pretty good. I really wish the lighting and my camera was not as blue tinted. Whatever. But yeah, I got this at a video game store for pretty cheap. I'll have to check it out one day. I heard it's really weird. Another movie I haven't watched, Hellbreeder. I got this in the horror section of my old video store. I know it has to do with clowns, obviously. Looks pretty weird. Yeah, it's from 2004, it looks like. That's cool. Going Overboard, which was Adam Sandler's first starring role in a movie. And he himself has so embarrassed by this movie, he refuses to list it on his official website. Now, I've never seen the movie, but I've heard weird things about it. I don't know. I'll check it out. It's from 1989, so like right before Adam Sandler was on SNL. I gotta talk about this trilogy. Hostel. It's like a snuff kind of, not a snuff, but like, it's like a torture gore kind of movie. Takes place in like Russia, or one of those like foreign countries, and people get captured and get tortured. It's a very, very good movie. The first one is, of course, my favorite of the three. There's the disc. Highly recommend that movie. Very good. Eli Roth directed that. And then you got part 2, which I enjoyed a lot as well. It was different, a little different than the first one, but I like some of the death scenes in it, especially the unrated version where the guy gets, well, you gotta watch it for yourself. Know what I mean? But I got that, of course, at a video store. And then the black sheep of the trilogy, Hostel Part 3. Takes place in Vegas, and there's a game show involved. That's all I'll say about that. It almost feels like when they were making the movie, it didn't even feel like Hostel, honestly. Like it's a completely different movie. But I still had some fun with it. This movie is actually like $30 online because it's like out of print. So if you could find a copy, definitely snag one up, because that's pretty rare to come by. Here we have Saw 5. I don't have Saw 3, 4, or 6, but I do have the fifth. I found the 5th one recently. I haven't seen it yet, because I want to watch them in order. My video store had 3, 4, and 6, but someone took them already. Here's Night of the Living Dead, the George A. Romero classic. A classic movie. This DVD, however, is not the greatest, because it was taken from a very washed out print, and it's public domain. However, I have bought the Blu-ray of that, which you will see in my Blu-ray collection soon. Killers 2: The Beast. Got this recently at a video store. It looks pretty good. I like those like weird indie horror movies. And I still have. I gotta see the first Killers to watch this, I would say. Celtic Pride. Daniel Stern and Dan Aykroyd and Damon Wayans, who really does not act much these days. But it's about these two guys who are a fan of the Boston Celtics, and they capture this basketball player, so their team will lose. Yeah, it's pretty funny. It's one of those forgotten 90s films. To Wong Fu, thanks for everything, Julie Newmar. I know I'm going to get weird looks for owning this, but it's very... I've heard Dear Werewolf 93 mention this movie, and I just had to pick it up. It's about these 3 drag queens who go on a road trip, and they get stuck in this like little hick town and try to, you know, make the best of it because their car breaks down. It's pretty funny. It's not laugh out loud funny, but it's still pretty funny. Patrick Swayze, Wesley Snipes, and John Leguizamo. Check it out. It's pretty good. Here's Rat Race, which is like a 2000s version of It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. Haven't seen it in forever, but I remember it being pretty funny. And there's the disc. For some reason I have 2 copies. Here's my other copy. And I realized I had this movie already. And I bought another one. Pauly Shore is Dead. Kind of like a mockumentary about Pauly Shore. With all these like celebrities talking about him and stuff. It's kind of interesting. Kind of weird. I have a soft spot for Pauly Shore though, as seen. I talked about before in the past. And there's the insert. Pauly Shore is Dead, and there all these actors. And there's Fred Durst. Yeah, Pauly Shore's dead. And speaking of Fred Durst, here's a movie he directed, The Long Shots, with Ice Cube. Inspired by a true story about this guy who tries to be a football coach to his niece. That's pretty good. I enjoyed it. It was a little slow at the beginning, admittedly. But if you can ignore that, it's a good movie. Hobo with a Shotgun. That's all you need to know. This was one of the trailers on the Grindhouse movie I was talking about earlier. And then they turned it into a feature film. Rutger Hauer, I think that's how you say his name. But I love this movie. It's very, very gritty. It almost feels like a more independent and underground than it actually is. But it's really good. The ending was a little meh. But overall as a film, it's not bad. It's Casper's Scare School. I remember when this used to air all the time on Cartoon Network. Non-stop until they finally pulled the plug on it. And then I watched it like the night before Halloween, I want to say. And it brought back a lot of memories. It's not that bad. It's got Jim Belushi and Bob Saget in it, and the Devon Worksheiser, I think that's how you say his name, who was Ned in Ned's Declassified. He voices Casper in this, which I didn't even realize at first. He does a pretty good Casper. Bug. Brian Cox, Jamie Kennedy. Jamie Kennedy's the only person I recognize in this movie. I haven't seen it though. I intend to. It like was made in 2001 and then it didn't come out video till like 2006. Some movies are like that. Pray for Rock and Roll. Gina Gershon. It's like this movie was sort of like about a girl band, which I really liked. It was supposedly inspired by Joan Jett's story. In fact, she actually had a hand in making this early on, and then something happened with the production, and then she left. I don't know, but it's still a pretty good movie. There's this rocker from LA. Her name is Texas Terry, and this is one of her only roles in this movie. She has a minor role as a performer, but I like her, you know, so that's cool. Yeah. Night of the Living Dorks. I know Cool Duder mentioned this movie once in his foreign film collection, and it's pretty cool. It's a German movie. It's about these guys, teenagers, who turned into zombies, and they have to try to get out of. They have to try to turn back into human. It's pretty cool, actually. It's from 2004. Although I don't think it came into the States till like 2007. Yeah, that's a pretty cool movie. Here's the first waiting. The 2-disc special edition. Wanna know the funny thing? When I bought my copy at the video store, it only came with disc 2. And then eventually I found a copy at a record store that only had disc 1. So I kind of combined it with the slipcover and put both discs in. Here's waiting. Here's disc 1. And disc 2. That's a pretty funny movie. That was like one of Ryan Reynolds, I think, his first starring roles, way before Deadpool. And Annie Milonakis is also in that movie. Justin Long too. Ah yes, this is probably third favorite Quentin Tarantino movie. Such a good movie. I didn't even realize, I watched it like for the first time earlier this year. I was like, where the hell has this movie been all my life? It's really, really bizarre, but it's very good. Here's the booklet. Uma Thurman on there. Definitely, highly, highly, highly recommend it. This is when, in my opinion, when I was talking about Reservoir Dogs in my other video update, or collection, this is where, and there's the list of, like the fake Jackrabbit Slims list. This is when Tarantino really started to shine. You can get the soundtrack. I think I have the soundtrack actually. That's pretty cool. Bruce Willis. Here's disc 1. And number 2. It's so quotable too, this movie. Does he look like a witch? I'm trying to be PG, but you get the point. Yeah, highly recommend it. If you haven't seen that, then you need to get on that. Slackers. Very, 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 very weird college movie about this guy who falls in love with this girl. He cheats on his own test, and there's this weird dude that tries to snitch on him. It's freaking weird. Laura Prepon is in it too, and Jason Segel. And the guy from the recent Fred Durst movie that passes my mind is in this as well. But, okay, there's the disc. And there's the insert. The Fanatic, that was it. This guy right here was in The Fanatic. Vegas Vacation with Chevy Chase. A lot of people say this is a very underrated movie. I haven't seen it yet, so I can't really tell you. But I will eventually. And there's Chevy Chase right there. Eight-Legged Freaks with David Arquette. Another one I still have yet to watch. I probably will eventually. I like David Arquette ever since I saw him in Scream? Yeah. Yeah, that's from 2002. So that's pretty cool. No Vacancy. Christina Ricci. I don't know how you say her name. Late 90s comedy. What more can you want? Robert Wagner's in it too. So I guess that's something. But yeah, that was when she was very, very young, as you can tell. It's pretty good. The Beaver. about a guy who loses control of his life, and he buys finds a beaver puppet, and it takes over his life. Mel Gibson's pretty good. Me and my uncle are going to do a parody of it eventually on Paul's Parodies, so look out for that. It's going to be called Beaver Part 2. Harold and Kumar Escape from Guantanamo Bay. Very funny movie. Very enjoyable. Love this late 2000s kind of comedy humor. I also have Harold and Kumar Go to the White Castle as well. I have the third one as well. Love this movie. They might make another one, I don't know. This is a bootleg I got. Hamburger the Motion Picture. Freaking weird movie. Really freaking weird. This is like transferred from the VHS. I think this is even officially released since then on DVD. I know my friend Sean really liked this movie. That might be his handwriting too. Hamburger the Motion Picture. Cheerleader Ninjas. This is a very weird movie where it was filmed in '97, had a little premiere in I think 2000 or '99, and then was put on VHS on the director's website in 2002, and didn't get an official release until 2003 on DVD. So it's had a weird, very weird history. I know the promo DVD actually has a commentary. I think the VHS version is actually slightly different. So there's like a couple versions out there. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's like 90s cheese. Okay. What's Up Rockers? This was directed by Larry Clark, who also directed Kids, which I liked as well. This is kind of like a slice of life movie about these El Salvadorian teenagers living in Los Angeles. Kind of just trying to live outside of the town and try to get out there more. It's pretty good. I think it came out 10 years after Kids, so 2005. Yeah. Wish Larry Clark would do more. Return to Sleepaway Camp. This is the fourth one in the series, now if you count that unfinished movie. It was filmed in 2003, didn't come out till 2008. It feels amateurish, honestly. It's alright. I love Felissa Rose, but she's barely in it. Although I heard they're making another Sleepaway Camp, so that'll be cool. This DVD goes for like $40, but I got it for like $2 at a video store. Nah, I don't think I need to say anything else. The Karate Kid. Their first one. The best one. That's the special edition. From 2006, it looks like. That's a classic. I got this for my mom because she likes Lee Majors, but it's an independent movie called The Ballad of Andy Crocker from I think 1969. Yeah, I should really give this to her. She would like it more than I do. I love how they use the same cover on like 4 sides of the case. Super. Rainn Wilson and Ellen Page and Liv Tyler and Kevin Bacon. We love this movie. A lot of people say it was similar to Kick-Ass, but I don't really see the difference. Like maybe because of the costumes? I don't know. But I thought it was a really funny movie, and Rainn Wilson's a very underrated actor. Like I know he's acted in The Office and stuff like that, but I'm talking about movies besides Super. Yeah, check it out. Wish there was a Super 2, but and that was directed by James Gunn as well, which I thought was cool. King of the Ants, another out of print DVD. It was directed by the same guy who did Reanimator. It's got George Wendt in it. About these killer ants. And like a killer. It's very hard to explain. But I got it for dirt cheap, so not complaining. The Invitation with Lance Henriksen. I haven't seen this yet. Looks like a horror thriller kind of movie. 2002. Posers. From what I've been told, this is like a pre-Mean Girls, but somehow more vulgar, if you can believe that, and more dark. From 2002, so it predates Mean Girls by a couple years. Anyway, there's the manual and there's the disc. I have to see it. I gotta put this in another case. That's really shouldn't be folded like that. But yeah, I'll check that movie out one day. Hoot. I remember the commercials for this movie when it came out. And I didn't watch it until last year. Love this movie. It's not the best kids movie ever, but it's pretty good. It's about these group of kids who meet and they find this owl farm and they're trying to stop the town from tearing it down. It's pretty good. Monster Island, Carmen Electra. I haven't seen this one yet, but I've heard about it. It's got Adam West and Nick Carter in it. It's one of the only MTV movies that came out, I think, in the early 2000s. I mean, there were a couple, but you know what I mean. I'll eventually check it out. Oh, okay. This is something I made from a VHS tape. This is a New York punk band called the Lunatics. And this has 3 shows. Well, 2 shows, really. One from 90, one from 97, and one from 90. Well, the interview from 91. I posted all these on my other channel, which you can find if you look hard enough. Wasabi Tuna. I have not seen this yet, but I've heard it's one of the only movies that had Anna Nicole Smith in a role before she passed away. I think this is from 2003. I don't even think it had that much of a release to begin with. Yeah. Another movie I haven't seen yet. Neve Campbell's in it, so it must be decent. I Really Hate My Job. Kind of like a... I don't know what you would call this. Independent comedy? I guess. It's weird seeing Neve Campbell with short hair. You gotta say that. Garage Days. This is a really cool movie, Australian movie, about this group of friends who are like rock stars. They try to make it big. It's very weird. Like, there's one scene where they drop acid at a family dinner. It's freaking weird, but it's pretty good. Here's the disc. From the director of The Crow and I, Robot. Scorched. I only got this because of John Cleese. I still have yet to watch it. I know a lot I still have yet to watch. Yeah, it looks pretty funny. Teenage Dirtbag. Inspired by true events. I like these kind of independent movies, so... Looks cool. Looks like a drama. The Descent. This is a cool movie right here. About this group of friends who go into this cave and they get killed one by one. And it's pretty creepy. There's these like creatures in the... It's a British movie too. Yeah, there's the disc. I own the sequel as well, but I haven't seen that. I heard that's like a continuation of that one though. Here's one of my favorite horror movies of all time. Orphan. Great movie. About this family who adopts this Russian girl and a lot of weird stuff happens. I heard they're making a prequel to this movie. It might be alright, but I feel like this movie is like on its own is perfect. One of the best horror movies ever, in my opinion. Highly recommend you watch Orphan. Max Keeble's Big Move. One of the early 2000s like fun family movies. I love this movie. Kind of like similar to how Judy Moody was. It gives you a good feeling when you watch it. In fact, these two were in Snow Day together, which was kind of cool. This same kid right here, he also was in Home Alone 3, which was okay. Yeah, that's a great movie. If you haven't seen Max Keeble, watch it. It's such an enjoyable movie. About a kid who his parents are moving and he just tries to make the best of life. Watch that movie, please. It's very good. Lip Service. I haven't seen this movie yet, but looks like a romance. I like these like independent romance movies. The Zodiac. This is like a television movie, I think, but it has Macaulay Culkin's brother in it. It's based on the true story of the Zodiac Killer and them trying to hunt it down. It's definitely not the best film I've seen of the Zodiac Killer, although it's definitely not the worst I've seen. It's pretty good. I know there's another one that came out around that time called I forgot. There's so many movies called Zodiac Killer with the Zodiac Killer in it. I think it was just called Zodiac Killer. Two Lovers. Gwyneth Paltrow and Joaquin Phoenix. Pre-her, after Signs. Definitely pre-Joker. Looks like a romance. It was in the cheap movie section in my video store. I don't have much to say about it. John Tucker Must Die. Still have yet to see this one. I've heard from people say it's pretty funny. Kind of like another teen comedy. And there's the disc. I'll definitely check that one out. I own this for a year and I still haven't seen it. The Spiderwick Chronicles. And I love Freddie Highmore, so I've heard it's pretty good. It's from 2007, I want to say. Yeah, 2007. Nickelodeon movies. Huh. Another one of the forgotten ones. Next up we have Ring Around the Rosie, which I still have yet to watch. But from what I've heard, it looks very, very weird. Might be alright, though. It's from 2006. Tom Sizemore's in it. one of my favorite comedies that didn't get enough love back in the day. Freddy Got Fingered with my boy Tom Green. It's one of the weirdest movies, but so funny because it's of how weird it is. Because Tom Green just is like the funniest. He acts like a freshman from high school in this movie. It's just so great. If you don't like weird movies, then you might not like it, but I love it. Pretty sure this DVD's out of print as well. Yeah, definitely watch that movie. It's very, very funny. And finally, we have House of a Thousand Corpses, one of my favorite horror movies. I think it's the best movie that Rob Zombie has ever directed. He hasn't come close to anything since this. It was filmed in 2000, didn't come out till like 2003 because of some thing with the production. But if you haven't seen this, you're missing out. Of this and Devil's Rejects is probably my favorite. Devil's Rejects is pretty good too, but I liked it. Anyway, it's part 22 of my DVD collection. See you in the next one.